Hey, and welcome to...
Wow, that was lackluster.
I didn't even finish it. I didn't even get the...
Well, it started lackluster. You're going to need more energy than that. That was unacceptable. That was below
Let's hold him down and kick him in the nuts a few times and see if that helps.
This is the AT Banter podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
I am Rob Minot, and today I am joined by Steve Barclay.
Hello.
I am joined by Ryan Fleury.
Howdy.
And I'm also joined by Rick Chant sitting in.
Good morning.
And we're here for... What are we here for, Ryan?
Our monthly news show.
That's right. It's the
Bum-ba-da-bum.
moment everybody has been waiting for. That show where we couldn't get a guest, so...
We got lots of guests.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just sticking the knife into Ryan's back.
There's lots.
But you know
No,
what they
you're
say.
not.
You know what they say? No news is good news. So here we are with
No
Lots of
news.
no news.
Did you guys do any Black Friday shopping?
Nope.
I've done, online. I've got shitloads of stuff that's been coming all week, so
Yeah.
I'm almost done my Christmas stuff shopping. So
What I thought was really interesting was Google, the Google Home and the Google Home Mini dropping drastically in price over Black Friday.
yeah, pretty much almost a half.
Yeah.
The Google
yeah.
Home Mini was like 40
$40.
40 bucks.
Is that right?
Yep.
And the regular Google Home was like 90, I think.
80.
80.
Yeah, it was $80.
Amazon Echo's now available in Canada on the Amazon Canada store
Woohoo.
for 40 bucks.
Are we
50
going to get
bucks.
somebody in to talk about the Amazon Echo? Or are we going to... Do we know anybody who's got one?
I've got one upstairs.
What?
Mhm.
When did
Yeah,
you
you
get
do.
one of those?
A year ago.
Oh.
Yep.
Ordered it from the U.S. when it wasn't available in
Yeah.
Canada.
I got it
Oh,
from
that's
eBay.
right. Yeah. So why haven't we done a show on the Amazon Echo?
Well, we could. Yeah, we could.
We could.
I thought this is interesting, and it kind of ties into a few of the stories that we're gonna talk about first. But I thought it was a real strategy on Google's part to implement that price drop. I mean, I was tempted, very tempted to pick up a Google Home Mini.
Yeah, I was going to call you and see if you did.
You know, the only reason that I didn't was, I would like to use it when I do get it as a wireless speaker, and the Mini isn't really. It really isn't for that. It's not a very good. You don't get really great sound out of it. So I'd rather get the regular flavor, like the Google Home, and it just
The Google Home?
the Google. I hate saying the word Google, incidentally,
The G Home.
which is another
No,
reason why-
because that's going to morph into something
Right.
In the
else.
taint.
I believe that's pronounced foam.
Foam.
it's Swedish. The G is silent.
I am on the email notification list for when the Google Max gets released, which is due in December here.
Now, talk to me about that. What is that?
Well, that is their competitor to Apple's HomePod.
That's
so
what I
that's
thought.
the one where you can put it in any corner of your room, and it has speaker array and AI built in, so it'll adjust the quality of the sound based on where the speaker's placed. It can be placed horizontally or vertically. I forget they said how tall it is, but the downside to it is it's $399 US. So we're going to be looking at like $460 Canadian
Wow.
for a speaker. It's one speaker. It's a lot of money.
Well, and that's an interesting segue into our first news story, which is the fact that the HomePod, Apple's HomePod, was announced last week that it was going to be delayed until early 2018. No, don't laugh.
Well, I have to laugh because we did a story, I think last week. I'm sure we did a story, or I saw a tweet, and I was going to send you the link, and I don't know if I did or not. But how
This is all getting very vague.
Apple had spent 2 years working on the HomePod and had never released it. They kept just reinventing it. And now here it is, delayed again. So they've missed the boat.
Well,
no, they haven't missed the boat. They're making it even more awesome.
well, you say that dismissively, but I mean, that it poses an interesting question. You know, in a way, I think if it was anybody other than Apple, they would be slightly panicked, because I feel like Google, had a definite strategy over Black Friday, which was to get the Google Home into as many households as they can, and they dropped that price so that it made it almost like a no-brainer, like $40 for a voice assistant.
Well, you buy 4 of them, put them in every room of your house.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, it was a grab for market share.
Sure.
And not only did Apple miss that boat, but they're also missing the holiday season.
Yep.
They're also missing Christmas.
Yeah, I think that's going to hurt them ultimately. But I've never met anybody who has owned an Apple product that wasn't fairly close to thrilled with it. So if they're not releasing it because of updates or upgrades or whatever you want to call it, when it does come out, it's going to be a force.
Well, and I think that's the only thing they have going for them. The Amazon ecosystem has been around 2, 3, 4 years now, and they support everybody under the sun for, environmental controls and home automation. Google's quickly catching up. If Apple doesn't come out and support a lot of this stuff at launch, I don't see it working.
Well,
If I was in their shoes right now, and I'm looking at Amazon and Google rapidly overtaking Amazon, at least that's my impression, I would be taking that product back to the drawing board and saying, hey, we can't be another also-ran.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have something that is so compelling about this product
That people will flock to it.
Over these two entrenched competitors. And I really, I believe that's probably what Apple is doing right now. I don't think this is a production delay. I think they probably could release a product right now if they wanted to. I think they don't want to, because they want something that is going to
Blow your socks off.
is going to be better than what's on the market.
Yeah.
So we'll see
tough.
when it launches. We'll see what they have. If they haven't done that, I don't see them having a whole lot of success other than with the entrenched Apple crowd and maybe interconnectivity between other Apple products.
Well, and I think that's just it. At launch, they were going to support only Apple Music. Well, what good is that? How many of us have Spotify subscriptions? I have Apple TVs in the house, but I don't subscribe to Apple Music, nor do I use iCloud. What is the HomePod going to do for me?
but I think that that's the unique position Apple is in, is that they know that they have this base that is in the Apple ecosystem, and they want to stay in the Apple ecosystem. Sure. So they're going to wait for the HomePod. They're not going to run out and buy the Google Home, because...
They might, because you can get the Home app on iOS and use your Google Homes right from your phone.
Right, you could put out an Apple straw and that diehard group would buy it.
That's true.
Right.
Depending on what it's capable of. I totally agree.
So I don't know.
As long as it sucks liquid through it, I think they'd buy it. How's that?
It's the new iStraw. It's dockable.
It's dockable.
It plugs into any plastic top cup.
Yeah. Charges while you're slurping.
So it could very well be, I think it's probably,
It's also $3,000.
I want it.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is, when people saw the announcement of the HomePod, I think it was going to retail at $299 US. So if it's not being released this year, what's that going to do for the price if they're coming out with a new product?
Well, I don't think that they'll necessarily come up with it. I mean, who knows? I mean, we really know nothing about the about the delay. It could be a production delay. Who knows? I mean, I doubt it. I'm kind of with Steve on this. I think that they kind of went, well, you know what? We could pack this feature and this feature in if we had a little bit more time. And they looked at it and went, you know what? Screw it. We'll delay it. You know what? We can afford to delay it. We don't.
I think you're exactly right.
We don't need to rush this thing out to compete with.
We might lose a little bit of the market share, but you know what? In the end, we'll make up for the mileage we've lost because we've got such a superb product.
Well, I'll see if I can find that news article, and maybe we can put it in the show notes. But like I said, they've been working on this for over 2 years already.
But that could,
and there's still no product.
And I mean, we've complained that for a long time that Apple has kind of sort of fallen off the being at the head of innovation bandwagon.
Yeah, look at all their Macs and iPads.
So if they're delaying this because they're, packing this with something that's going to really innovate, power to them. I mean, I think that's great.
Yeah, we'll see. If it does something that my Echoes and my Google Home can't do, and it's something I have to have, great. I'll jump on the bandwagon. Like I said, I've got Apple TVs throughout the house. But if all it is an AirPlay-enabled speaker, no thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Well, time will tell.
It'll be so much more than that.
I hope so.
We shall see. Time will tell.
Are they going to?
And we will revisit this upon launch.
Are they going to include Chromecast?
Yeah.
They'd be silly not to. But Apple doesn't like to, get in bed with people.
Well, back to L.A. again, are we?
Unlike producers.
Moving on.
There's a theme to this news show.
That's right.
Moving on.
Who's in bed with who?
Ryan, you're fired.
Apple is not in bed with anybody else.
That's right. Well, you know what? You want to talk about some more Apple stuff?
Oh, sure. What else you got?
Moving on.
Well, we've got this news article that says that the current Black Friday numbers are out in terms of the iPhone X. Now, wait. Okay, I had this argument with somebody over the weekend about this. Is it the iPhone X or is it the iPhone 10?
iPhone 10.
10.
Okay, thank you. I'm right. Suck it.
Until the 11 comes out, then it'll be the X iPhone.
Yes.
Yeah. There's been a lot of people talking about how, the new version of iOS 11 has really slowed their devices down. So
Yeah.
I've heard. Who was I talking to just the other day who
I
said
think
that?
Albert Well had mentioned that on Facebook.
Yeah, it might have been Albert, yeah.
Slow it down. It
So
seems buggy.
What is an iPhone 10 worth?
I think it was 1,300 Canadian.
Right.
Yeah.
And they sold 6 million of them over Black Friday
That's nuts.
It's absolutely
6
insane.
million of them.
Yeah.
at $1,300 a piece. So call it a nice round $1,000 a piece.
Sure.
6 million of them at $1,000 a piece is $6 billion.
Yeah. Well, Apple's not hurting.
Yeah.
That's the gross domestic product of some small countries
Yeah.
on a single product.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And the really interesting thing about it, and we talked about this when they announced it, we were like, oh man, nobody's gonna drop that much for a phone. Not only are they're going for the more expensive one.
The 256,
the 64 gigabyte
Yeah,
sells
in for a penny, in for a pound, man.
The 64 gig sells for about $1,000 US, and the 256 gigabyte, which is $150 more.
$11.49.
Yeah.
For $150, I would have done the same thing too.
It does. It's sure. I mean, it makes sense. You're getting 4 times the storage for $150. I mean, you might as well if you're going to spend $1,000.
It'd be interesting to know what the Google Pixel 2 numbers were over Black Friday, just to do a comparison.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. You should have looked it up.
I should have.
They sold one.
Not to me. I like my Samsung.
No, Apple, when they release a phone, people flock to that phone. It's, I don't know what it is about it. The designs haven't really changed. They've gotten thinner and...
It's that fantastic interface to put music and stuff on it. That's what it is.
Maybe.
What's it called? iTunes.
People love iTunes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah.
Although, people have said you don't necessarily have to use iTunes anymore, so...
That's true.
Moby has got one that's
But
a nice interface.
But I mean, look at this. I mean, they're talking about numbers that they figure for the holiday season, and Apple's own earnings say that they expect to sell more than 80 million iPhones over Christmas.
That's crazy.
80 million at $1,000 a piece. It's only $80 billion.
Well,
If only they come out with a new Mac Mini.
Well,
Dead air.
Yeah, right.
Why? It'd be a great entry point. I've often thought about buying a Mac for years and years and years just to get to know how it works.
I want an
and do a
iPod.
comparison. And they haven't released an update, I think, since 2012 2012 or 2014.
Brand new 32 gig iPod. That's what I want.
32 gig iPhone. eBay.
You know, it is interesting. It all this talk of ecosystems, at least for me, it's a new concept. And I don't know if you guys are like this or if our listeners are like this, but the more I think about it and the more I have experience with some of these devices that are made by the same manufacturers, the more I'm kind of buying into it. Like the idea of having like a Mac and an iPhone and an Apple TV, like that all worked in a HomePod that all work together is kind of cool. Like, you know, and it, personally, I mean, I would go with the Google side because I'm an Android user, and
AT Banter is looking for a new host.
No, look, I'm just using it as an example. Like,
send resumes to atbanterpodcast@gmail.com.
And see, I'm kind of the opposite side.
You can't fire them. We don't own them.
That's right.
Because I have an Amazon Echo and I've got Google Homes, I've got Apple TVs.
You just can't make up your mind is your problem.
Jumping into one ecosystem kind of scares me because I don't know what's around the corner, and I don't want to have to reinvest everything. So I haven't bought into that idea yet.
In other words, you're having a problem committing.
I am.
Your wife says the same thing.
That's right. No, I'd like to, but I can't at this point. Not yet.
Well, I think that more and more they're designing these products to work together more so than ever before. I mean, it is a relatively new concept, and over the past few years. And I don't know, it's sexy to me. I'm not going to lie.
Well, and I think, like my phone is the central hub to everything. I've got the Amazon Echo app that I can, do things with for my Echo. I've got the Google Home app on my phone, which I can do things with the Google Home and add skills and whatever you want to call them. I just can't buy into one system yet because each one of them has their advantages. There isn't the golden ticket yet.
But I think that, and to put an AT spin on it, I mean, there's a real tangible benefit to living within an ecosystem that everything's working together, especially when you factor in like home automation into that.
Yep.
Having an Apple Watch that you're using that talks to your iPhone, and you have a Mac that syncs with that, and all your home automation can be controlled by any of your devices. If you're sort of a somebody who's visually impaired or any sort of physical disability, that could really, really benefit you.
Well, the nice thing is you have choice now. Apple has their HomeKit, which is their home automation, back end, and I'm sure their HomePod speaker is going to allow you to use your voice to control lights and thermostats and stuff in your home. The Echoes can do that. The Google Homes can do that. So, the nice thing is we have choice now.
Yes, but I mean, I also feel like it's a little bit of it's a field, with these voice assistants. I'm talking specifically. It's something that's still a little uneven right now. Like they say, well, the Amazon stuff, it's a little bit more expandable, so it works a little bit better with you have more options in terms of home automation, for example, than you do with, say, the Google Home. But the Google Home is better in terms of, it's more intuitive. It's, it's much better at pulling relevant information than the Amazon Echo. So which do you get? It depends on...
Well, it depends on what you want to use it for.
That's exactly...
You can pick your home automation protocol. If, the Google Home doesn't support the one that you want to buy into, then you buy the Echo or you buy the HomeKit. Keep in mind the Amazon Echo, when you're doing searches, is using the Bing search engine. Google is using the power of its own Google search engine. And I'm sure Apple's going to end up using Safari or whatever they use for search.
See, and I think and every single comparison that I've ever read, at the end of it, basically that's exactly the place they land. They say, you know what? It just depends on what you want out of your voice assistant, whether you go with the Google or the Amazon. And I think that's going to change. I think that eventually it's going to be, which ecosystem do you want to live in? That's which product you're going to buy.
Hey, Rick. Is that horse dead over there? The one they're flogging?
I don't know. You and I have been on the outside of this conversation for quite a while, haven't we?
Listen,
It's because you guys haven't bought into it yet. You know, we got to get you guys a Google Home or an Amazon Echo.
I have my phone. I have that feature on my phone. Why do I care?
you will. Listen,
No,
there's probably a time.
I really don't.
Separate yourself from your phone.
Okay, wiretap.
Let's see you put your phone down for 10 minutes. But you can't do it.
It's an electronic
I
leash.
can, but I got to be watching
on.
TV. And then maybe.
Yeah.
Hey, who is that actor? IMDb.
I guarantee you, if we could go back in time and talk to Steve of the past, there was probably a time where you were like, texting? Who the hell would want to text? That's ridiculous. Why would you text somebody on your phone?
And you know what?
When you could
It's
talk
not
to them?
that long ago.
I know, right? That's the thing. Or Twitter. What the hell is Twitter? I would never use Twitter.
Oh, I still, I admit actually when Twitter came out, 144 characters. What the hell can you say in 144 characters? Why would anybody use this? And granted, the only reason I use it is to troll Trump followers, but, I honestly still don't see the value of Twitter. I don't.
Careful, they'll be after you.
Yeah.
You know what I do? I just look what's trending, and usually that's how I find out who's died. Usually, if you see a name that's, I'm serious, if you see a name trending on Twitter, you got to click on it because it's probably because that person has just died.
Yeah, who was it the other day who got caught up in the sex scandal thing? And somebody posted, they said, yeah, I saw so-and-so was trending on Twitter, and I thought, oh my God, they're not dead, are they? Oh no, it's worse. Oh, it was Angela Lansbury. Angela Lansbury came out and she said the other day that part of the problem with all of the sexual harassment was that women were making themselves too sexy.
Well, look at who's talking. I mean, put a bag over her head and she'd, oh, God.
Oh, come on now, be nice.
That woman just...
Be nice.
But she's 80. She's been 80 for like 30 years. That's right. I don't know. Go back and watch Bread and Butter. What was that?
Broken candle,
bed knobs and broomsticks.
I don't know.
Bed posts and broomsticks. I don't know. Whatever that.
Bed knobs and broomsticks. Back to beds, yeah. But she's had the knob on the back of her head replaced several times, right?
I don't know.
One that she uses to cinch up her face.
To pull the skin back.
Yeah.
No,
Oh my God.
I don't know that she has. I don't know.
Lots of editing this week, folks.
Anywho, yeah, loads. I don't envy you the task of editing this thing so that we don't get hate mail. Maybe we should just leave this one as is. No editing whatsoever.
We'd be
cease
and desist letters and lawsuits.
Let's just clear our audience completely. We'll just.
All right, the future. The future of computing.
Let's switch gears and talk about this other one. I know it's out of order, but because it sort of applies to what we're talking about in this. But it's a fascinating article from Computer World, and it's called "Why Virtual Assistants Are the Killer App for Wearables." And I thought it was interesting because it's a speculative article that talks about just how the idea of virtual assistants and wearables will eventually sort of be married into one
entity.
Yeah, one, to use the word again, one ecosystem, mobile ecosystem that, will have real huge impact on both AT and mainstream technology. And I thought that it was really apt. And we're already seeing this. We're already seeing in the Google event, they talked about how is it the Pixel XL? No.
Pixel 2 and Pixel 2 XL.
Right. And how the more expensive version is going to have the Bluetooth earpods that have Google Assistant built right into it. So you're going to be able to be on the go and use Google Assistant. So it talks a lot about that, about how people are sort of buying into the idea of voice assistants with, the Echo and the Home and the HomePod once it's released. But think about the power of that if it was embedded into a wearable, like a set of glasses.
Back up. We keep forgetting about Microsoft's smart speaker. The Cortana speaker.
I'm sorry. I literally I do forget about that. That's going to be a thing.
Wait, there's a Cortana speaker?
It is, yeah. Harman Kardon came out with one, Cortana speaker.
Wait, it's out?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
I'm pretty sure it's out.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Microsoft.
Well, that one's taken the world by storm, obviously.
I kind of feel bad for them because they're actually they arrived late to the party, but they are actually at the party. But still, so. Everybody's talking about.
Yeah, but they're standing in the corner by the punch bowl, the non-alcoholic punch bowl.
Nobody's asking.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Everybody else is pissed and on the dance floor.
And they're standing back, smiling and laughing.
So yeah. We should look into Cortana.
Yeah.
Again, there's AT potential for all of that. Even the AR stuff. Like I was thinking about, an app that you could literally, you could hold the phone up and you could, anything that's in front of you, you could augment and magnify, just by a tap or just by tapping the, spot on your touchscreen. There's all kinds of AR potential, I think, that hasn't even been touched yet. I feel like AR is still a little bit behind all this other stuff. But, you got to think back to the Google Glass is something that is, still has so much potential for a platform that still, I think that in 2-3 years, I think we're gonna see that whole thing rebooted and it's gonna show up again and it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I think the big thing that's holding that back right now is a decent screen technology that will really make it pop. There's a number of different technologies that have come out, but typically they're fairly low resolution. They're not great to look at. If they are higher resolution, they're huge. What's that virtual reality headset?
The Oculus Rift.
Nobody's going to walk around with one of those things on their head. You really need that sort of Google Glass idea where it's in front of you,
discreet.
But it's a heads-up display and it's discrete. The best technology I can see, or that I've seen, that has come out on the market is the direct retinal paint technology, which is used in fighter jets and so forth, where they're actually painting an image onto your eye, but that you can't carry a fighter jet around with you, so although that would be really cool. But sooner or later there will be a breakthrough in that heads-up display technology, and that's going to really change the way that we look at wearables.
Yeah, I agree. And, something like glasses are going to be perfect because, if you think about it, if you're wearing a set of glasses and you've got, basically a HUD, and you've got the ability you've got a voice assistant in there. You've got GPS built in. You're never going to get lost. You're never going to not know where you are. You're never going to be, you'll be able to send texts through just by dictating them, or, phone people just by saying, phone this person. And you know what I mean? If you have all that built into one device that's a wearable, that's going to be incredibly powerful, both for the mainstream and AT. And I really do feel like that's where we're going.
The other thing that needs to be part of that too is all of this self-driving technology that's out there, because the more that people get distracted, the more that they need something that's going to make them slam their brakes on. Don't step in front of the bus. Yeah.
Well, there's even some cars now that have automatic braking. So they'll detect a vehicle in front of you and they'll automatically brake. So
so Nike will come out with shoes for augmentative reality where. If you're about to step out into a hazard, the
shoes won't go.
The shoes reverse on you. Yeah. All of a sudden, tracks on the bottom of your feet go and take you backwards, drop you on your ass. Yeah.
Really?
Bus goes roaring by. Thanks, Nike.
You just gave them a great idea.
Yeah, you're really right. Copyright that.
TM.
But no, it's funny when I think back to even, gosh, say 2 years ago, when we first started hearing about, the idea of a voice assistant. It's probably even longer. Like, when was Siri? Like, Siri...
Oh, probably 5 years.
Really? Has Siri been around that long? No, we're keeping Ryan up.
No, it was early morning.
No, it's...
Ask Google how long Siri's been around.
Okay, Google.
How long has Siri been around?
On the website cnet.com, they say, Apple Siri curses out 12-year-old. Someone reportedly tampered with a demo iPhone 4.
Okay, that's a great news article.
I'm gonna read this out. So the response Rob get here was Apple Siri curses out 12-year-old. It's a CNET article. Apple Siri curses out 12-year-old. Someone reportedly tampered with a demo iPhone 4S so that when a 12-year-old boy picked it up and asked Siri a question, she is not amused or amusing. She tells him to shut the up.
Siri's got attitude.
Siri has attitude.
Bad attitude.
But wait, that was on a what? A Apple
4S.
4S, yeah.
So
Well,
it
so
goes
there you
way
go.
back.
That gives you an idea right there.
Yeah.
Hackability.
So, no, but so, the idea of a virtual assistant has been around for years, and we were all really slow to sort of being like, I remember at first being like, Siri, it's kind of cool, but it's kind of a gimmick. I don't know who's going to ever use that. But, now we've hit a groundswell where I can really see the potential for this.
I use Google Assistant almost probably every day. If there's a song playing on the radio, I can say, okay, G, name that tune, and it'll name me the name of the song and the artist singing it. Who's that actor? What's the weather? Play me a radio station.
And I think that a lot of people are just like you, Ryan. I feel like more and more people are becoming more entrenched in the idea of a virtual assistant. And it's really growing. And I think that, this Black Friday, that's just more evidence to that.
Well, and you can have one in your kitchen and, have it give you a recipe, and you can ask it to go to the next step, and it'll give you the next step. So, back to AT, huge ramifications for people if they want to be independent.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that if you are blind or visually impaired, I think that I would recommend immediately just go out and buy a Google Home Mini, because I just see it as an incredibly powerful device and assistant to your day-to-day living. Would you guys agree?
I would. I can ask it what's on my calendar. I can ask it to set an appointment, set an alarm, set a reminder, call somebody.
Yeah.
Super handy.
Yeah, and I think that more and more it's getting ingrained in people, and they're beginning to see the potential for this. So, given that, if we start to really become reliant on the idea of a virtual assistant, that's just going to automatically transfer into the idea of wearables. Because wearables is in the same situation, right? I think more and more people are seeing the value in wearable devices as well.
Yeah.
So it only makes sense at some point. They're going to marry and result in a new type of product. Okay, let's move on and let's talk about. You guys don't want to talk about Hulu? Or you want to talk about Uber first?
Hulu's a pretty big one. It's about time that somebody filed a class action lawsuit against them.
Okay, so
let's quickly talk about that. I'm sure a lot of people in the blindness community are aware of it because it's been everywhere.
Right. So anyone who isn't aware of this, Hulu has been sued for not offering audio service for blind customers.
Amazon does on Prime Video. They've got almost 400 titles now. Netflix has it on a lot of their titles. So Hulu, get on board. Hulu has movies and TV programs. And if I can turn on, my local CTV channel here with the audio description, I should be able to access that same show with audio description on whatever service I'm watching, whether it's Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, whatever.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the issue here is not so much that Hulu is inaccessible, it's that Hulu is being willfully inaccessible.
Right.
They have been asked by people to become accessible, to make steps towards being accessible, and they've gone, nah. They've just had complete and utter apathy, as best anyone can tell. So, good on these folks for holding their feet to the fire and forcing them to pay attention.
And Hulu, when are you coming to Canada? We want you.
Well, let's sue them. They're not accessible to us, the Canadians. So
You're not accessible to Canadians. I wonder if you could do that.
That's right.
Can we go after Netflix for more content?
That's right.
Yeah, no, I think I would agree. I think that, out of a lot of lawsuits that result in the States, and how many people have we had on the show that have said exactly those words, is that, yeah, you know what, the way that change happens is you sue.
Yeah.
You make these companies, you drag them kicking and screaming a lot of times into the, accessible market.
And there's just no excuse
Well,
for
is there
Hulu
any-
not to offer audio
Is there any
description.
mandate for that kind of a service to have to provide?
Hulu? I don't think so, because, I don't
I
know.
bet you
What do you
there
mean?
is.
Is there a mandate?
Well, I mean, has the government laid down rules that a service provider must supply or provide service to a marginalized market?
Well, they're being sued under the Americans with Disabilities Act, so presumably there
Okay.
is some sort of, and I don't know that legislation at all. Really, I know it exists, but that's about all I know about it. And I know that a lot of people have used it to force change in various companies.
Okay, so there's got to be some written.
Alternative access to media or something.
Yeah.
So that's, in a way that, you think about that, and that's kind of amazing because, there is all this legislation in place, and a lot of people just are like, yeah, you know what, we just ignore that, until we get sued or whatever. It's just a recommendation at this point.
Guideline.
So again, so sometimes you have to sue them in order to get their attention and to really bring them into
Compliance.
compliance, which is, I don't know, which is surprising to me because whenever any of these companies, are sort of on the record for not being accessible, it's just like, you guys are dumb. Like,
You're limiting your audience.
you are.
Yeah.
Like, there's this huge
Subscription
demographic.
revenue. And,
Yeah, just spend the money and provide audio description. I mean,
If they've already got the shows, they should be able to have access to the audio described track. They're already broadcasting the shows,
right.
so I don't think it would cost them any more to get the descriptive track.
You wouldn't think so.
No, there's no cost associated
No.
with that as far as licensing goes.
Right.
I believe.
Yeah.
And you come back around to the idea of closed captioning. Closed captioning has been a standard for years.
Yep.
There's nothing that doesn't have closed captioning. And audio description should have been, the same way for as long. So I think it's a great thing. I think sue.
Excellent.
You American?
We also got an email from one of our listeners, Shan, regarding the Uber issue.
Yeah. Well, that was a separate.
Oh, is that a
Uber
separate
issue,
one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that you guys want to talk about that first? Because that's just a bit of a side note. But who is it that sent the email?
Well, I don't know. As a side note, it's a pretty big deal. Uber was hacked. It was our buddy Shan who. Chant from Saskatchewan, who is
We
the
all
only
know him.
Canucks fan in Saskatchewan, sent over an article that I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it was something like 67 million Uber users' name and contact details were hacked. And Uber hushed it up for over a year and paid the hackers to get the information back.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They paid a ransom to get the info back and tried to keep it quiet.
Is this recent? Is this?
It just came out in the last couple weeks.
Oh wow! I did not hear about that.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm surprised there hasn't been a lot more fallout over that.
Yeah, it is kind of surprising, and I think it kind of speaks to the fact that people are getting sort of bored with losing their private information to hackers. It's just happening. It's happening to major companies and huge databases, and your personal information is not safe these days.
Yahoo,
if it's online.
Equifax, Uber.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think that
Governments.
yeah.
well, and I think there's a. You're absolutely right. I think that in a lot of ways, our comfort level about private information has just steadily decreased over the years, just by marketing.
Decreased or deteriorated?
Both. Well, I mean both. I think that like you said, the comfort level is just—it's like putting the old adage about putting a frog into
Yeah.
a pot and slowly turning up the heat. You know, it used to be where just giving somebody your email was, you know, you just wouldn't do it. And now you can't sign up for anything or do anything usually unless you plug in
An email.
Yeah. You can't even go to the mall and shop without someone bugging you about your email.
Yeah.
I went out clothes shopping the other day, and every single store, you know, they want your email.
Sure, so they can send you crap
Yeah.
spam.
Or it's even got to the point where I went to American Eagle and they wanted my cell phone number. And I accidentally gave them like generally, you know, because I don't know, I hate confrontation, so I hate saying no. So generally, I'll just give them like a dummy phone number, and I accidentally gave them my correct phone number, and literally 5 seconds after I was out the door, I got a text message from American Eagle saying,
"Are you
that,
serious?"
Absolutely.
Wow, you opted in. Wow,
it's insane. So, yeah, I think that, you know, data breaches and stuff like that, people are like, well, you know what, you know, all my private information is out there anyways, just from marketers. So
and it is.
I keep a separate email address specifically for those situations. I don't look at it. I never visit it. It's a Gmail account that I never go to. But I send any crap like that to that email address. And if somebody asks me for a cell phone, I give them yours, Rob.
Okay, well, good, perfect. That explains it. And I should really start doing that. That's because that's a great idea, and I just wonder how many other people do that. But yeah, there's a real currency to your private information that everybody's jumping into, because that's kind of what the new market that's what the new marketing system is. I mean, it's all about, you know, getting that email address or getting that information so you can target that person. You can figure out your demographics, so you know who to hit and who to market to.
Well, not only that, but in the background, they've got your email address and they know what you've bought.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden they're target advertising to you. You know, art supplies are on sale at Michael's or at wherever. You know, so they know your interests as well.
Yeah, well, and then there's that terrifying news story that I read the other day about how people are starting to notice things like, well, if I have the Facebook app on my phone, I'm noticing that I'm starting to get ads about things that I was just like talking to somebody about. Like I didn't write it in a text message. I haven't, you know, have any sort of...
It's happening more and more. It's happened to Linda in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they're just like, I had a conversation with somebody about Harry's razors. You know, I was just sitting down with them at coffee, and all of a sudden now I'm getting Harry's razors ads fed to me on my Facebook app. Why is that? So there's some terrifying implications to that. Yeah, well, so that's one part of the Uber conversation. So let's talk a little bit about the other more recent news article, which was the fact that Uber Canada has launched a new policy on how its drivers deal with customers who have service animals. But some disability rights advocates say the exemptions that are built into the rules still could lead to discrimination. And what they're referring to is, within those policies, they're saying that if a driver, say, has a letter from a cleric or a doctor saying that, you know, they're not allowed to be around animals, then they can still refuse service to somebody with a service animal.
See, I'm kind of torn on this because
So am I.
Uber drivers are private contractors.
That's a good point.
It's not like taxi drivers working for a company. They're private contractors. So are they bound by the policies and procedures of Uber? I would say yes, because they were hired by Uber. So in theory, they're working for Uber. They should follow their best practices. But at the same time, as a private contractor in your own private vehicle, you have the right to say yes or no.
Look, if you can't be around a service animal, then you shouldn't be in the service industry.
Yep.
Because that's just part and parcel of being in the service industry. You are going to run across people who have service animals.
Yeah.
So, sorry, that's just the way it is. Be a janitor instead, or be something else. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Because at the end of the day, every single person has the right to have access to transportation like this. And for blind people, for visually impaired people, or for people with any sort of physical limitation.
It's even more important that they have access to that service.
Exactly. And so, I think that there should just be a zero tolerance on it.
Yep, I agree.
However, having said that, the flip side of that, when I was ranting about it the other day, my wife said, well, what if the driver's allergic to a dog?
Yeah, and I mean, that's where where
letter.
The doctor's letter comes in.
So,
Yeah, allergies isn't an excuse anymore. We have laws that are governing our land saying that service animals are welcome in any public space at any given time. If you have allergies, I'm sorry. I have a right to be here. My service animal is a certified, and let's state that.
I'm hinging it on the the private vehicle, private contractor thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm allergic to perfume. So does that mean I don't walk into the body shop?
Well, that means that you probably don't want to get a job in a perfume factory
Or in a mall?
Yeah, sure.
Or go to church?
Right.
Like anywhere.
Because these little old ladies really like to swim in their perfume before they go out, looking good for the minister.
Where do you draw the line? Like, certified service animals go through rigorous training.
Yep.
And they are certified. They are not just your run-of-the-mill Cocker Spaniel that you got from the SPCA or the pound that you've trained and thrown a vest on saying service animal.
Right.
These dogs are more than dogs. And yes, you may have allergies, but we have people who have, so many other issues that I don't think you can use the allergies excuse anymore. If you're going to be a public servant or working with the public, especially as a taxi driver or an Uber driver or even a bus driver, then, like you said, you're in the wrong business. Blind people, deaf-blind people, more and more people in disability field are coming up with service animals. And they are everywhere. They're on your buses, they're on your trains, they're on the planes.
Yep.
And they are legislatively
Allowed to be there.
Allowed to be there.
Well, and I would even add therapy animals are starting to become a thing as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and that's just going to have to be part of that job. I mean, you're not going to be able to discriminate anymore, and you shouldn't be able to discriminate. And I think that those services are extremely important for that segment. So.
Can you imagine if Air Canada all of a sudden tomorrow changed their policy to saying no service animals allowed on any flights?
Yeah, I mean,
the outcry would be huge.
The backlash should be
huge. And it should be with Uber, and I'm glad people are showing this.
Yeah, and I think the only, like you said, the only part of this that does muddy the waters a little bit is just the private
contract
part of it. But I mean, I think that's where you write into the contract. If you want to be an Uber driver, dogs and service animals are just going to be part of the equation. And if you're not comfortable with that, or you can't be a part of that, then don't be an Uber driver.
There's something the owner can do as well. When they call for an Uber car, tell them that they've got a service animal.
Yeah, and that's what taxis do now.
As somebody who had a guide dog early on, I think it's part of your responsibility as a dog owner to bring that fact up. Not necessarily, a lot of people are going to say, well, I shouldn't have to. I should be able to call a cab, get in the cab, and go. Yes, but in today's society, that isn't always the case. We have a friend who used to be a client of the company we previously worked for, who just came back from a city in the interior and had, I think he said, 5 to 7 taxis refuse him service because of his guide dog. I think as an owner of a service animal, just come up front when you're making that phone call and saying, look, I have a guide dog, and please send me a driver who's okay with that.
Yeah, but
and then you're not wasting everybody's time.
Yeah. You could, but I mean, I think that
You shouldn't have
and
to.
I've heard stories where people have said that. They have said, you know what, yeah, I have a service animal, and they just send whoever. Like
Yeah.
the dispatcher doesn't necessarily
Right.
Pass that along.
pass that along, and somebody shows up and they get refused service anyways.
Yeah.
And but you're waiting another 20 minutes for another cab. It depends on what time of night. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be
Yeah.
really slow. I mean, that's a huge inconvenience that
Absolutely.
just should not be there
Yep.
at all.
Agreed.
And like I've had to take my cat to the vet, say, and a lot of times I've had to take a cab, and yeah, exactly. I mean, you pretty much have to say up front that you have a cat in a carrier, so that they don't freak out when they show up, and they.
Yep.
And I mean, I assume that that's because of some people are allergic or whatever, their comfort level isn't there with.
Or they have to
dogs.
clean the car before they turn it back in at the end of the night, or whatever.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just think that they just need to out and out do away with that whole thing where this is an option.
Well, they do. And like I said before, this is all legislated. It's in our Canadian laws that your guide dog is allowed in public places. And taxi companies need to get on board with that
Well,
legislation.
ultimately, your guide dog is allowed where you're allowed.
Yes. And, the taxi companies, Ubers, have to take notice, just like the air carriers have, and say, yes, this is acceptable.
I mean, yeah, because you think of restaurants. It's not like you have to phone ahead to a restaurant and be like, hey, you know what? I want to come to your restaurant to have dinner, but I have a service dog.
There are still restaurants that turn people away.
Yep.
Well, that's got to change too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I think that this is good. I think that they should get some blowback for this, because I don't know that there should be a loophole
No.
in their policies. Because I definitely see that will be abused. Everybody certainly has the right to practice
Yes.
whatever they want in their own home.
Yes.
But once you're in the public space,
You're governed by the
and
laws of the land.
You're not only that, but I say you're governed by legislation that has this loophole for service animals that's there for a reason, and you just can't pick and choose
Who you're going to service and who you're
who
not.
you're going to service, because especially the real irony of it is that the visually impaired community, for example, who is the most common use of service dogs, they rely on these other transportation services so much more than just somebody who's like going home with their groceries from Safeway. And
Yeah, I can't get in my
Right.
car and drive. I need to either take a bus, take a cab, take a train. And if I had a dog, he's going to be getting me there.
yeah, so it's it's more important than ever for services like Uber or taxis or whatever to have rock solid, no exemptions
Policies.
for policies. And so
Yep.
I think that it's a really good thing that Uber is getting a bit of blowback for this, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not they close that loophole going forward.
What else we got?
There is one more thing that we could actually talk about that I thought was interesting that I ran across this morning, which was this news story that's talking about a 3D printer making the first wearable battery.
Oh, yeah.
And especially with Rick being here, I thought you might be interested in this, Rick. So it says, imagine printing off a wristband that charges your smartphone or electric car with cheap supplies from a local hardware store. That's the direction materials research is heading at Brunel University, London, where scientists become the first to simplify and affordably 3D print a flexible, wearable battery.
Battery in quote marks. Okay.
The technique opens the way for novel designs for super efficient wearable power for phones, electric cars, medical implants, pacemakers, and more. The printer squirts stacks of silicon, glue, and gel electrolyte pastes like a layer cake to make what looks like a clear festival wristband. Sandwiched inside is a supercapacitor, which stores energy like a battery, but on its surface and without chemical reactions. It says researchers in many countries have found new ways to make flexible supercapacitors, but their techniques, which include 3D laser selective melting machines, are expensive and use different machines to print different parts. Our technique brings it all together into one process with one machine. So that's kind of the crux of it. I don't know, what's your you're kind of the battery guy. What's your impression of this? because this could have like really long-term implications. I mean, this would be pretty amazing if you could, especially with all this talk of wearable tech and voice assistant and stuff. If you could,
Yeah,
also
I assume that's what it's trying to address. Now, is this power being generated by a photocell and stored in the supercapacitor? Is it being produced by motion that is causing this capacitor to charge? There's a whole lot of questions that I would have around ultimately what this thing is designed to do and what its target market is.
Well, it seems to me that what they're trying to do here is give people like a real cheap solution to, because I mean, their portable batteries are around, they're a dime a dozen right now. I mean, you can go out to London Drugs and you can buy, a rechargeable, battery that you can plug your iPhone in and be able to charge on the go, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like that's the cutting edge technology. I think that the big thing here is the 3D printable thing. Like, you can just make your own battery.
With the correct parts,
which is, according to this, are like just cheap ass
stuff out of a hardware store. Yeah, like I say, I suppose you're not going to get a super capacitor at a hardware store. That's an electronics store. But I mean, that's splitting hairs. And my question still stands: is how is this power being produced to charge this quote battery? Is it a photocell? Is it motion? Is it
biorhythms from your skin?
Yeah.
How cool would that be?
Biofeedback.
Yeah. So the production of the power being stored, I don't know what it is, so it's hard to comment on something you know nothing about.
Sure. But it's interesting. It paints a real interesting picture down the road because, especially with wearable tech and voice assistants and now we need something to charge to power all that.
Right. So what have you got? This bracelet on your wrist that's got some kind of a port in it that you can plug your phone into?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly what you're talking about.
Is that what it is?
Or can it charge wirelessly?
Oh, who knows? I mean, even better.
Great. So now we've got another emitter on your body that's screwing with your electromagnetic fields.
That's right. Oh, I need something more that can give me testicular cancer. Thanks. But no, it's...
My testiculars don't work anymore, so it doesn't make any difference.
Right. No, especially if they could... Could you imagine if, like, Biorhythms, if it could you could charge your battery with motion. And
you know what? That's where you want to feed people caffeine all day long, so they don't sleep at night, so you can harness the energy.
Well, I think there was on the island, like a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old girl who developed a flashlight that basically worked off the heat of your hand.
Wow,
yes.
Really?
Yeah. So as you're holding it, the flashlight works because it just gets the electricity from your
See, look
body.
at that. You could address the obesity crisis in the States by having these wearable batteries that you could recharge by motion and movement. So you'd have to go for a run around the block in order to
just get them all gooned up on caffeine and let them loose. But there's not only fat people in the U.S.
That's true. That's true. But no, it paints an interesting picture for the future. I mean, I think that just wearables and being as portable as possible is the new black.
Is the new benchmark, yeah, for sure.
Hey Ryan,
Rob,
where can people find us?
They can find us online at www.atbanter.com.
I'm so glad you've gone back to the wwws. I really missed that last week when you did it. Yeah. Yeah, they can. They can also email us if they so desire. atbanterpodcast@gmail.com. Where else can people find us, Ryan?
They can find us online on YouTube's, on Twitter's, AT_Banter, or on Facebook, AT Banter.
All one word. Hey, Steve, where can people find you?
People can find me at www.canastech.com. That's CANTECH.com. No,
it's not.
No, it isn't. It's www.canasstech.com.
Tell the fine folks where people can find Chaos Technical Services.
Chaos Technical Services is on the web at chaostechservices. Nope, that's not right. chaostechnicalservices.com. And you can give me a call anytime, 778-847-6840. Pacific Standard Time, please.
And what the heck do you do over there at Chaos Technical Services for those people who may not know?
I provide service for most manufacturers' assistive technology devices. If I can't do it myself in-house, I will arrange for it to be sent out to the manufacturer to be done.
All right. Well, if we are all done then...
Get the hell out.
I've been Rob Minot.
I've been Ryan.
And I've been Steve Barclay.
And I'm still Rick Chant.
And we will see everybody next week. Thanks for listening.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canasstech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com. Music provided by bensound.com.